Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Wednesday, October 30th. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen precipitation only over the northern half of the Great Basin, and even this precipitation we have seen has generally been below normal. Very dry areas of the Great Basin still remain over western and southern Nevada into the Arizona Strip and southern Utah. Looking at new snowfall over the last 72 hours, the image on the left, you can see the new snowfall across eastern Idaho, Wyoming, and across the northern two-thirds of Utah. We also have a fairly good snowpack over parts of the north and very low snowpack further south. Looking at the current snowpack, again, you can see snowpack is above normal over parts of central Idaho and near normal over the rest of Idaho, even pretty healthy snowpack for the time of year over parts of western Wyoming and northern Utah. However, further south, again, well below normal in those areas where we just haven't seen the precipitation. Looking at our evaporative demand drought index over the last week, you can still see those drought conditions over southern areas of the Great Basin, but not quite as extreme as what we were seeing just a couple of weeks ago, and then obviously no real concerns further north. Looking at our satellite from this morning, you can see a cold front that has moved through the Great Basin yesterday, bringing stronger winds and much colder temperatures, and also that new snowfall that we saw over the eastern half of the Great Basin. This cold front has now moved through all of the Great Basin and will be moving eastward through Colorado, leaving behind, again, very cold temperatures. We're seeing single-digit and below zero temperatures this morning over parts of Utah, and the rest of the area really into the teens. So again, very cold air mass in place, but these temperatures will be rebounding as we move towards the weekend. Looking at the weather pattern for later today, again, you can see that cold front push further east, leaving behind that cool northerly flow and dry conditions across the Great Basin. Winds will be decreasing over all areas with the exception of the south, therefore dispersion will be poor over the northern two-thirds of the region and still fairly good over southern areas. You can see the image on the left is where those gusty winds will be remaining today over southern areas and winds much lighter over the rest of the Great Basin. Mixing heights will remain low to moderate. As we move into Thursday, we do have another cold front dropping down from the south, not quite as strong as this last one, but it will keep temperatures cool across the Great Basin through the end of the week, but it will be fairly dry with only some cloud cover and poor dispersion as we're not really expecting much in the way of gusty winds. So again, you can see the wind image on the left showing those lighter winds. The only stronger winds will be in the higher terrain of Wyoming, and mixing heights generally on the low side. As we move into Friday, that cold front slides to the southeast into the plains, and again, we have generally a ridge of high pressure building over western areas of the Great Basin, bringing warming temperatures and still cool temperatures for another day on Friday over the eastern area. But again, still dry conditions. We may see some breezy northeast winds over parts of southwest Utah into eastern and southern Nevada, keeping dispersion a little bit higher, but for the most part, a fairly low across the region. So again, you can see that small pocket of breezy winds on Friday, with the rest of the area seeing low to moderate winds and generally low to moderate mixing heights. Looking at the forecast clearing index for Utah, again, where we are seeing those gustier winds today, we'll see the higher clearing indices in the south and over the higher terrain. And then we do see conditions decrease on Thursday with those lighter winds and then increase a little bit on Friday over southwest and central Utah. No precipitation really to speak of across the Great Basin. That next cold front again will keep precipitation mainly in the northern Rockies, but may clip parts of Wyoming, bringing just some very light precipitation. As we move through the weekend, we will see that strengthening ridge of high pressure off the west coast. This will keep temperatures gradually warming through the weekend, especially over western areas of the Great Basin. Temperatures will generally reach up to about normal values for the time of year, and then we'll still see some of those cold fronts moving into the northern plains, just clipping Idaho, keeping temperatures a little bit more on the cool side, but generally light winds and poor dispersion. So as we move into Sunday, similar conditions. And on Monday, we start to see that ridge flatten out a little bit. May see a little bit more cloud cover up across Idaho with some breezy winds to Idaho or parts of eastern Nevada into western Utah. So you can see a little bit better dispersion in those areas if there's any burning going on. Otherwise, generally poor dispersion. And similar conditions on Tuesday. Again, no precipitation really to speak of. Any precipitation will be remaining north up into the northern Rockies. And then looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, taking us into the first week of November, showing warm temperatures and drier conditions. We will possibly see a return to storms bringing some precipitation potentially by the middle of November. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Friday for the latest updates.